Good morning. So welcome. Welcome to all of you, parents and grandparents and family members and alumni and friends, to Putney School's 83rd graduation. And welcome to the class of 2018. Seniors, before we begin, can you take just a moment to thank the faculty that have been beside you all this way? I know that you will also take the time today to thank your parents and grandparents and whoever else it is that has made it possible for you to be here. And to all of the families that are here, I want to give you my thanks and that of all of us who live and work at Putney. You have been wonderfully supportive of the school and our community. You have trusted us with your children, and you have been helpful in so many ways. So congratulations to the class of 2018. Yeah. Your time at Putney has been full of challenges, both personal and collective. And although it's not always been fun, you have come through it extraordinarily well. High school is always a time of enormous personal challenge. Nobody gets through adolescence easily. Or if they do, it's because they really haven't been paying attention. You came here as children. 35 of you arrived barely out of the 8th grade, and you are leaving as adults. It would have been nice if during this time of turmoil, of figuring yourselves out, of learning how to live in a community, if the world would have stayed still, if you had a consistent backdrop against which to see your own growth. But your time in high school has been a time of enormous change and disruption around us. 4 years ago, Obama was president, and many of us were largely unaware of the huge political fissures in our country. We didn't imagine that we would see our country's culture moving in so many different directions at once and at such enormous speed. On the one hand, our government no longer looks like an ally on many progressive goals. On the other hand, while you've been at Putney, a new era of social justice activism has arisen, and you've been able to be a part of that. Putney was founded in 1935. Hitler and Stalin were in power, and it was clear then that every citizen needed to be part of the work of making a civilization worthy of the name. During the Obama years, we may have become a bit complacent, but you have never been that. More than any class I remember, and that's a lot of classes, you have been determined to remake civil society, not to be content with what's wrong, not to just roll your eyes and sneer as teenagers sometimes do, but to actually work hard to remake this little world up here on the hill and to gain the skills to remake the larger world out there. I have always thought that an important part of what Putney teaches is how to challenge authority, and you have earned your diplomas. You've also had enormous dedication, perhaps because of all of the change out there, to things that are eternal, to the land, to the arts. You've lived lives steeped in music, literature, dirt, wool, and creativity of all kinds. You have left behind a challenge to the younger students to continue your work and have mentored them well. I have a card on the bulletin board in my office that says, "You can't wring your hands and roll up your sleeves at the same time." And each of you in your own way have understood how to roll up your sleeves and to enjoy doing it, at least sometimes. We'll miss you, and yet you have left a great deal of yourselves behind, and we hope you'll be back often. And now I'm delighted to introduce Josh Laughlin, who is the chair of our Board of Trustees.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Josh Laughlin, and I'm a graduate of the class of 1982. I'm glad to see you all here on such a beautiful and meaningful day. Parents, grandparents, siblings, aunts and uncles and friends, we are all here to support you, the class of 2018. Under the remarkable leadership of Emily Jones and with the unending dedication of the administration and faculty and staff, you've made it to graduation day. Congratulations. In my role as the chair of the Board of Trustees of the Putney School, I'm privileged to see what students work on and how they go about it. It's always exciting. What you have learned in your time here and the friendships you have made will serve you well throughout your entire life. Through your hard work and with the support of your families, you have completed one of the more unusual academic experiences offered in American education. You have learned the importance of living in a community that values you for who you are. If you can share that lesson with others, it will benefit not only you, but all those around you. The other day, as I was pulling into the parking lot at the main building, I watched as a student gracefully drove a large John Deere tractor with a tedder behind it, turning the hay to prepare it for harvest. I wondered if that woman, who happens to be graduating today, was likely to use that skill in her future. I don't know the answer to that question, and perhaps she doesn't know either, but I do know that what she has learned by gaining that skill will serve her indefinitely. A Putney education is like that. You may not know in the moment what the value of a given experience is, but I am certain that you are as well prepared to live in our complex world as anybody graduating from high school today. Whether you are going on to college next year or pausing to chart your course, you will likely find that you are well prepared for life after Putney. I've often heard Ira Wender, who is the most senior member of our Board of Trustees, tell a story about how he became familiar with Putney. When he entered Swarthmore as a freshman some 60-odd years ago, he was immediately drawn to 3 people who would be his best friends. He knew nothing about the Putney School, but realized right away that one of the reasons these people were so capable was that they all shared the experience of a Putney education. He was not able to pinpoint the exact characteristics of these friends, but he recognized that they were more prepared for life in the real world than most of his other classmates. Having missed the opportunity to attend Putney himself, Ira successfully encouraged children and grandchildren of his to attend Putney. He has now served on the board for more than 30 years because he recognized the importance of a broader perspective, and that's something you have all gained here. With the tremendous challenges that your generation faces in terms of geopolitics, ethnic and religious divisions, the warming of our climate, and most recently, the blurring of the definition of truth, your participation in making the world a better place is incredibly important. It may take you time to recognize your role, but I would encourage you to be honest with yourself and others throughout the process. Speak truth to power. I gather you've learned to do that. Find what it is that you love to do and do it, and serve your community and your world in any capacity that you are able. We must all participate in the process of creating, slightly repetitive, but what Carmelita Hinton, the founder of the Putney School, referred to as a civilization that is worthy of the name. Please join me in thanking Emily and the entire faculty and staff for their role in bringing us all together on this great day. And finally, please join me in congratulating the Putney School's class of 2018.
I'm delighted to introduce the senior class speakers chosen by their class, Acadia Barrengos and Mica Lin-Alves. And Mica, I think, is first.
Thank you, everyone. Those of you who know me, even just a bit, will likely not be surprised by this. I love pretending to be a wise man. This is troubling. It's an issue because I really don't have the kind of wisdom that I imagine and desire. That kind of wisdom has an omnipotent, divine quality to it. It is knowing what to do in every situation. It is always having an answer, always knowing what to say to every person, always having a response. None of us are graced with such a thing, even the oldest and most experienced of us. We are stuck with the inferior, incomplete kind of human wisdom. We get stuck in shitty situations. We throw our hands up in the air. We aren't sure what to do. We burn bridges. We cut off others. We also provide joy and relief to people's lives. We occasionally know just the right thing to say. We occasionally hop right up when we are called to action. Sometimes we are able to help guide each other on the path toward a better life, whatever that might mean. Human wisdom can actually be quite helpful when we are presented with human problems. Indeed, if we were divine, we would never need to choose between right and wrong. We would simply do good every time. Choice is what makes a human, and this freedom is precisely what human wisdom is concerned with. Some people call human wisdom philosophy or ethics. Call it whatever you want. You will be thinking about it. Like it or not, this is our arena. The problems we have grappled with during high school will not be going away. So what is it we can do? Well, we are aided by the fact that we have become quite good at observation. Put it this way, we're considerate people. I mean that not in the conventional sense of kind or nice, but in the literal sense. We are people who consider. We can strive to encompass both meanings of the word. I think we should. But how do we do this? It starts with something deceptively simple. It begins with a need to recognize that we ourselves are a part of the world. The flaws that we identify out there are also contained in here. We are a part of the world now. The world is in us. The world is in here. And this world in here is also deserving of our attention. It does not just deserve, but it demands. My journey with this kind of internal contemplation is complex, and I know what happens when I get off my game. It's happened a lot lately. I've been feeling youthful, and not in the hopeful way, more in the everything is wrong and bad kind of way. It's not great. When I get pent up complaining about the out there world, it can be difficult but necessary to remember a sort of mirror. The in here world is a reflection of everything that's going on out there. It is so easy for me, and for all of us, to pick apart things that are out there. But too often, when I do so, I inadvertently and unconsciously imply that what's in here is above it all, that I am somehow better and free of the issues that I see out there. Again, it's often unintentional, but it happens a lot. The real challenge is being able to do both at the same time, to recognize what's wrong inside and outside, and then try to change both for the better. I will try to be a little bit more concrete. Here is a pretty recent example. Sorry in advance to my dad and Sue. A few days ago, my diploma was trying to make its way back here so it could be all prepared for today. I texted my dad first to see about the status. I thought it was at my mom's house, but nope. Later that day, Sue comes up to me and inquires about my dad and the diploma. For some reason, this inquiry just sets something off in me. Why should I have to figure all this out? I'm not even the one that has it. To make things worse, both my parents continue to bug me about these forms I need to sign for college, and this is it. These are the habits of mind that are so easy to fall into, especially as teenagers. If you dig just a little into this example, you get something like, they're asking me to do all this, and what have they ever done for me? This is, of course, a ridiculous question. These people have done so much already. Even if this weren't true, even if the demands on me were ridiculous, the important thing to recognize is that the fact that we are equally capable of doing this. Everybody can make tall orders and cause frustration. Likewise, everybody feels the stress and anxiety from deadlines, demands, and disappointing project weeks. I couldn't tell you the number of times I've asked my parents to call a college or coordinate travel plans. I've barely even thought about how I'm actually getting home after this. In here and out there. This is my point. The greater we can understand in here and how to work with it, the better we will get at understanding and working with what's out there. When we work with these things, we must maintain a kind of balance. Our idea of self is formed from our perceptions of both in here and out there. If we draw too much from only one, we risk excessive pride or selling ourselves too short. You can't get a complete picture by concentrating on just one. We have to hold them in tandem in order to get a full view. This is a long, hard process. It's not something we could have done in high school. It takes an immense amount of patience. More, probably, than I or any of us young people could yet muster. It proceeds step by step. If I can notice just a few times I flare up when a text message from Pop comes in, that will have been an achievement. Sooner or later, our examination of in and out will become habitual. Like other good habits, it will take time to instill. And just as we ought to have patience for ourselves, we can have patience for others. That doesn't mean we must wait forever. Patience does not mean you cannot demand respect when it is not duly given. It means remembering and considering how long it takes to struggle, to develop understanding and habits. Everything that is now automatic and unconscious for you was once not so. We can thank self-discipline or the miracle of disciplined parents for our good habits. At the same time, we can also hold accountable ourselves and our miraculous parents for at least some of our bad tendencies. For many of us, it has taken just about 2 decades to be able to get out of bed at a productive hour, even semi-regularly. This is why I urge you to remember how long it takes to struggle. But there are a few things that we can do right now. We can try to appreciate sunsets. We can try to appreciate those times when we help others or when we let ourselves ask for help. These things are often equally as difficult. We can express our appreciation when our friends and loved ones are really there for us. We have spent a lot of time, as teenagers do, looking out there, checking out the prospects, picking out the imperfections. We will continue to spend a lot of time doing this, but I'm encouraging you to also spend time looking in here. These two worlds aren't that different after all. So this is where we are left. It's not particularly joyful, but just look at how rich the world is, at how much there is to appreciate out there and in here. We are ready to take it on, and the world is ready for us to take it up. Thank you.
Good morning. If you know me at all, I don't like to waste time, so I'm just going to jump right in. Okay, that was not an insult. Mike, I love you. Okay. Anyone that has watched our class grow can agree that our journey has not been the easiest ride. As a class of 64 students acting as a microcosm of our world, we are extremely divided. In our last moment as Putney students, let's look at this. I know we're hesitant as a class to agree on anything, let alone the fact that we may have shared experiences, but if nothing else, we share this. We share our time here, whether we like it or not. When we came to Putney, we were the first class of a new admissions administration. We were strong, powerful, and opinionated. Right off the bat, we internalized this idea that we had the potential to shift the culture here. My dear classmates, I need to let you in on a little secret. Apparently, they tell every class that. But that doesn't take away the fact that we believed we could have a substantial impact, and we weren't wrong. We inherited Putney as a community from the classes before, and we pass it down differently than how we received it. We used our power to shift what Putney meant. There is a newly potent energy around activism, a revolutionary passion that we're leaving here. We can see it in just the freshman social activism projects this year. They created a financial aid program for the Putney Community Garden, a gender identity curriculum for elementary schools, a benefit concert for the Brattleboro Groundworks Collaborative, and countless other wonderful projects. We are passing down a vigor and fervor that we created out of only just being here and being together. The passion we've established here is connected to the change we encountered around the 2016 election. This affected us all. It created an awakening and realization in us. Though we may have all had very different reactions, as it meant different things to everyone, it did something to us as a group. We separated. We didn't just part ways. There was a new tension that fully emerged. Not that it hadn't been there before, but it was so strong that we divorced each other. We reflected in many ways what was going on in this country. Debates around the Me Too movement, immigration, and race clearly showed us our differences. We had the courage to face the difficulty of difference, and we weren't totally successful. Yet everyone falls off a bike the first time they take their training wheels off, and we ripped off our training wheels, the adults. And we fell many times, and we ended up with some bruises, scrapes, and some of us with non-metaphorical concussions. We created this tension, a tension that's almost as tight and intense as Alden's neck. She made me say that. Tension, we've learned, leads to potential energy. If you pull on two sides of a rubber band and press down on the band, it is taut. There's energy there. In order for our muscles to contract in our bodies, the muscle fibers have to tense in order to do anything. That tension provides the power and energy we need to move. Without tension, there can be no movement, no motivation, no drive. The tension we experienced led students in our class to convince Emily to take 2 huge buses to Washington for the Women's March. This tension created curriculums around consent and diversity work that we designed that will stay here after we leave. These tensions sent us to many conferences and inspired our own. We know that tension, opposition, and value or belief pushes us to change what we want to see change. We've faced challenges only young adults can face. We've done exactly what we were supposed to do. And now we can harvest this energy that we've created by opposing one another and use it as fuel in our next steps. Though we tried to confront our differences, we eventually decided it wasn't worth our time and energy to try to bridge a gap that did not want to close. And that wasn't an easy decision. We've just embraced this idea that this is how it is. We hate each other, period, end of story. But I reject that notion. We've all hurt each other, but good things have and will come out of the pain we've experienced. We'll come back in 10 years for a reunion with the giddy energy of meeting each other for the first time. We'll surprise each other with the sheer power of the causes we're fighting for, the art we're creating, the businesses we're managing, the trees we're cutting down and planting, and the lives we're saving. We will remember how the moonlight shone on the puddle at night, the weird but comforting smell of the barn, the chair sitting in Hughesby that Quinn lived in for a month, the flowers we picked and put in our hair, the long walks, the badly whispered midnight conversations. We'll remember the meaningful discussions in the faculty room, the water fights, the happy box finds, climbing trees, falling out of trees, breaking bones, breaking hearts, the laughter and songs emanating and resonating through the air all the way to Keep and G House. We will come back and remember what it was like to be here as young, passionate, important, wonderful people. This division does not need to define us as a class if we don't want it to. We've struggled around how to be a class all together, but there were a few things we've been able to rally together for and pull off. We were the first humans class to agree upon and sign the Climate Summit Treaty. We didn't have anyone expelled our sophomore year, which was quite a feat. And we got 100% participation on the annual fund this year. We came together in the beginning, and we've come together a little more now. A month ago at card burning, I realized how close we were to the end. We all grouped around this huge fire that spewed sparks of diesel-powered energy. You would think that after 4 years of being Putney students, we would know how to make a fire without gasoline. To the parents, I would like to say that most of us do. You did not waste your money. It's just that some of us really enjoy unnecessary exposure to danger, which is one of those differences in opinion, I guess. 2 guitars created a surround sound auditorium for us as we sang almost beautifully. We sang the songs that are imprinted in our souls and memories after these years, the songs that we should probably know better than we do at this point. But that night we did something special, magical even. We let each other be ourselves. We just sat there and held each other around this fire, sharing music as we comfortably sat in our differences. 4 years earlier, in Humans of the Natural World, we read an address written by David Foster Wallace, This is Water, which he gave to the graduating class of 2005 at Kenyon College. He speaks of a foundational egocentric perspective. He says, "We rarely think about this sort of natural, basic self-centeredness because it is so socially repulsive, but it's pretty much the same for all of us. It is our default setting, hardwired into our boards at birth. Think about it. There is no experience you have had that you are not the absolute center of." I remember being disgusted by this idea as a 14-year-old. I was positive that I wasn't self-centered, and this dude who has no idea who I am is telling me that I'm selfish simply by just existing. I'm not sure if any of you felt the same way, but I believe we can now agree that the way we see our individual world is our default. It has to be. It's all we know. And that was us. As a class, we came from diverse backgrounds and strong opinions and held closely to them. Over the course of our time here, however much time each of us may have spent at Putney, R.I.P. Chase Johnson, we've engaged in conversation and learning. We've all grown. We're more able to listen, internalize ideas, and be open to changing our thinking. We've recognized that everyone is living in their own default setting. Everyone is thinking about themselves and how the world affects them. Our class has started to change our hardwired notions and include others in our set database. After Putney, we are going on to school for engineering, art, music, agriculture, law, design, paramedic school, forestry, as well as intensive liberal arts studies. We are waiting for the world to mold us, to tell us what we're supposed to do next, what our purpose is. We think that this is the next challenge, the waiting. But you guys, no one is going to tell us that. It's already inside us. Regardless of what we're about to go do or study, we have that power already in us. We've learned it here. Even if we found it through frustration, Putney has helped us all find power in who we are and how we want to change the world. We are facing many challenges as we head into the quote-unquote real world. We are already a part of this world, and we cannot hide from it here. We've unified in the difficulties we've faced this year alone. We are wiser for searching for answers from people we've learned don't have them. We're stronger for having to push up against authority to make change. We are all a part of the current rise of activism in our generation. We may not like each other, but we need each other. I want to conclude with a passage from an essay, Song for the Special, written by a young woman, Marina Keegan, who died the night after her graduation from Yale University in 2012. Her writings were published posthumously. While David Foster Wallace forces us to confront the limits of our human perspective, Keegan encourages us to look beyond it. I want to share this passage with you all, my class, as I believe it summarizes the one truth we can hold on to and must, as we leave the hillside and fall into our next chapters. Every generation thinks it's special. My parents because they remember my grandparents because they remember World War II, my parents because of discos and the moon. We have the internet. Everyone thinks they're special. My grandma for her Marlboro commercials, my parents for discos and the moon. You can be anything, they tell us. No one else is quite like you. But I searched my name on Facebook and got 8 tiny pictures staring back. The Marina Keegans with their little hometowns and relationship statuses. When we die, our gravestones will match. Here lies Marina Keegan, they will say, numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The generation flying its tiny cars would think itself special. Until one day, vaguely, quietly, the sun would flicker out and they'd realize that none of us are. Or that all of us are. Our world is as infinite or finite as we choose it to be. So let us challenge ourselves to engage our minds and those around us, to unify in purpose though our methods may be different, and to look beyond each other and beyond our own human perspectives to better our world. Thank you.
So now please rise and we will sing the senior song.
It is my privilege and honor to introduce to you our graduation speaker, Jared Blumenfeld, who was appointed by President Obama to be the Regional Administrator of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency from 2009 to 2010, who also served as the Director of the San Francisco Department of the Environment, chaired as the first United Nations World Environment Day held in the U.S., and founded the Business Council on Climate Change in Green Cities of California. He has worked for nonprofits, including the Natural Resources Defense Council and the International Fund for Animal Welfare, where he helped protect millions of acres for wildlife and held corporations accountable. Jared Blumenfeld's most recent project is the Podship Earth podcast, which is a deep look at a lot of science and policy-related environmental issues. He is also a member of the Putney class of 1987. Please give a warm welcome to Jared Blumenfeld.
So good to be here. Yeah, I'm excited. Okay, here we go. So it was funny because I saw, I don't know where she is now, Piper, but yesterday I walked into the KDU and she was wearing a Clash t-shirt. And when I came here in 1987 from England, I was wearing wingtip shoes, suspenders, eyeliner. That was the time of the Cure, the Clash. It was like a big time for me. I loved it. And when I got here, it was like, especially coming from England, this is a completely different universe. Like, it really felt like I was on a different planet. In those days, there were very few rules at Putney, really none. Like you, we got to work with our hands, growing food, milking cows, making art. There were no grades. I don't know if they're grades now. We got a lot of adventures canoeing in Lake George. Most people somehow managed to get their sleeping bags dropped in the lake. So yeah, as you'll hear in a minute, it was a good beginning to my adventures. Teachers, which was really unique for me, actually seemed to love teaching, right? They seemed to love what they were teaching us. So for me, that was like, wow. I mean, if there's one thing I learned at Putney, it was how to love learning. And that's probably the most important lesson that I have taken away from Putney. But it really came from people loving teaching what they taught. I also love the food. I mean, you got to remember, I came from a place where there were mushy peas and very, very boiled Brussels sprouts and mutton. So for us, like, food here was like incredible. Really was. When I started going to boarding school in England, I started going to boarding school at 9. I was super homesick. And when I came to Putney, I was so far away from England that really I made this my home. Putney became my home because there was no option to go home. So, you know, that's what you've done as a community. You have no choice but to make it work. And in the rest of your life, that's going to be true too. My last week of Putney was memorable. Hopefully yours has been as well. In the middle of the night, we took out all the tractors. We took out the sit-on lawnmowers, the rototillers, and we raced them around the campus until Ray Andrews tipped one over and the farm people came out, and like Tasha's laughing over there. And then we painted the steeple in the Arts and Craft building fluorescent yellow, as one does. And we spent most of our time skinny dipping in the puddle. So that was like, yeah, that was the end of our, apparently we were referred to as like the dark ages, the time that we went to Putney, but it was memorable for us. So Putney is a work in progress, right? It's an experience in experimental living. We heard this before. It kind of sounds like all of us, from the kids who gave great speeches to the adults, kind of prepared the comments in unison. They're all a little different. But back in 1935, Carmelita Hinton, the founder of our unusual school, she wanted to foster an environment in which children could become independent progressives. She wanted us to be curious and courageous. She said, "There's no use living on year after year just to live. That's not life. If I can contribute, that's one thing. To stop creating is to die." So, Emily Jones seems so measured by comparison, but don't be fooled, as those who know her can attest. She's a firebrand at heart. Let's give a big rousing thank you to Emily and all the staff! Come on! Oh yeah! Since Putney's founding, the outside world, with a brief exception in the late 1960s, has become more cautious, more conservative, less accepting of the values taught underneath the elm tree. Today, as you start to take leave of this stunning hilltop, I'm already nostalgic. In the case of Putney, this instant nostalgia is warranted, because for the rest of your life, you will reach back to Putney and the community and the ideals as a source of inspiration. Putney represents a wellspring from which you will continue to grow long after you leave the campus today. When I graduated, the speaker standing where I am now was the actor Wally Shawn. Yeah. Oh, good. Of Princess Bride fame. He was himself a Putney graduate, and he taught me a very important lesson, which is never go up against a Sicilian when death is on the line. Let's be clear from the outset. Just like Wally Shawn, graduating from Putney means one thing above all else. You are not normal. You're not even close. And the sooner that you understand the depths of this truism, the sooner you can stop trying to conform to meet the expectations of those who desperately want you to be like everyone else. At college and beyond, very few people will understand the experience you've had at Putney, and fewer still will want to hear about every single one of your amazing Putney adventures. Those that are intrigued will lightly assume that you made most of it up. The shared experience of Putney, as we heard, both good and less so, is why your classmates sitting next to you today become more important with the passage of time. They were here. They will remember. At Putney, I became an addict, a maple syrup addict. Over the years, I have found there really is no cure, and for that, I am glad. After Putney, I went back to England and was at a friend's house for a pancake breakfast. I politely asked for the maple syrup, and they brought out some hideously sweet, grotesquely sticky confection that bore no resemblance to the amber nectar that I'd helped make in vats at Putney. I was faced with a tough choice. I could abstain, but the pancakes were super dry. So I put on a brave face, and it was so much worse than I could have imagined. At that moment, I wished I turned Putney into a 5 or 6 year experience, because as you will each find out, maple syrup can be a really expensive addiction. And in many parts of the world, it's simply not available. England was one of those. I love the movie, I hope many of you have seen it, Captain Fantastic. The magical scenes where Ben, the character played by Viggo Mortensen, is running through the forest with his 6 kids is like Putney. And tomorrow is like the second half of the movie set in Tucson. It's not better or worse, it's just very different, which is just a Buddhist way of saying it's worse. In the years since I left Putney, the school has remained very close to its values. Yes, it's made changes, it's modernized, but it's fundamentally still a beacon of hope on a hill. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for the outside world. I'm not going to bombard you with a litany of facts and figures about the demise of the living world at the hands of industrial civilization. What I will say is that the misadventure that humans are on is very unlikely to turn out all right. You need to be prepared for that. At the same time, there's never been a more exciting time to be on the planet, filled as it is with breathtaking beauty at every turn. Holding this dynamic tension is a balance that is the only way that I know of both being productive and sane during these times of rapid change and great uncertainty. Putney helped me deepen my love of nature, which had started as a young child bicycling through the fields outside Cambridge, England. Putney gave me the time to lie down, actually right over there in the tall grass, and look up at the shape of clouds passing by overhead. I remember walking through the woods down by the old theater and realizing for the first time that nature was not non-judgmental. It just was. My work has been in pursuit of the love I feel for nature. As a teenager, that love showed itself as anger. I was so angry at the crimes being committed against nature. I studied law because I wanted to right these wrongs. There were times in my career when I got lost in the fight itself, not feeling the spirit of why I was fighting. During these times, I'd go hiking or mountain biking or canoeing deep into nature. The last time this happened, I was in need of a complete reboot. I'd been an environmental bureaucrat for way too frigging long. So I quit my job at EPA and walked from Mexico to Canada. I thought that I was setting myself up for a physical challenge, but 90% of the struggle was in my mind. Being completely alone for days at a time made me aware that we are not alone. 13.5 billion years ago, there was no time, there was no space, and then from a single infinitely dense particle, a grain of stardust, the universe was born with a bang, and space and time began to expand. Every single facet of our universe shares this same beginning. Their creation is our creation. Everything on Earth, rocks, trees, water, fish, us, share a common descent. The same 355 genes exist in every single living thing on Earth. The night sky that you can see so clearly from Putney contains more stars than grains of sand on all the world's beaches. We are part of creation, and creation is part of us. Given that we are connected to all living things, we must now finally acknowledge that we are equal to everything else in nature. The myth of human superiority has been used to boost our egos by making us feel above nature. We act in every way possible to detach ourselves from nature, to show that we are better, smarter, and different from the rest of the natural world. This has given us a fake license to hold dominion over all other living things. The myth of human superiority represents the philosophical cornerstone that undermines our destructive relationship with nature. Our intelligence is used to justify a great deal of short-sighted, ignorant behavior towards the environment and others. Inhuman treatment, including torture, has long been justified by dehumanizing nature. In every genocide from the Nazi Holocaust to Darfur, the oppressor cast the victims as subhuman species, for which normal standards of care do not apply. We treat everything non-human as disposable. That's why human rights and environmental protection are so intimately connected. Our relationship with each other and the planet is currently dysfunctional. It's not acceptable. It is not okay. We must fight for radical changes to how we treat each other and how we treat nature. Our arrogance, desire for status, wealth, power, security, and comfort are the reasons we've put our hands in our pockets and looked the other way as nature burned. Even when we have taken action, it's consisted of half measures when we knew full well that bold steps were required. Your 4 years at Putney have trained you to be effective advocates in the fight for planetary survival. You already know the importance of speaking up when you see that the emperor is wearing no clothes, and now is such a time. You've learned, mostly through osmosis, the critical elements needed to create the ecological U-turn we require. Let's start with community. You spent thousands of hours helping make Putney a community. It took hard work, early mornings, shoveling cow manure, planting crops, and showing up to class smelling like shit. Community is the critical ingredient to a functioning democracy. Being part of the Putney community means that you share a common destiny, not that you agree with everyone's views, but rather that you listen and respect everyone's opinions. This is the only healthy means by which consensus and a clear path forward can be forged. You are stronger because of the community that surrounds you today. They will be with you for the rest of your lives. Tomorrow, as Acadia said, you will enter the real world. By default, you will become defenders and rebuilders of community, from hollowed out rural farm communities to suburban gated communities to gentrified city communities. There's one critical thing missing: community. You are some of the few people in this country who at 18 have already exercised their community muscles. You know what community looks like, you know what it tastes like, and because of Putney's love of singing, you know what community sounds like. We need to keep a strong connection to what moves us. Music has always moved me. The second powerful skill that you've learned is curiosity. You will be entering a world with more information than ever before, but very few ideas on how we can live in harmony with each other and with nature. We are told that curiosity killed the cat, because just like in Oz, society doesn't want you looking behind the curtain. But do not be fooled. Curiosity will make each of you successful. Asking difficult questions and not giving up until you're satisfied that you found out the truth makes for complexity. Financial interests don't want the boat rocked because that makes waves, and waves make people nervous. You will make people nervous. You're already making me nervous. Nervous in a good way. Seeing your energy and desire for change is a rush, and it's a little scary at the same time. It often seems like the world is purely based on producing and consuming stuff we don't need. This cycle is rapidly making the planet uninhabitable. This is not trivial. This is about whether 100 years from now we will have so diminished the web of life on Earth that we can no longer support life. Getting the planet back on track will take large, bold steps. Yes, we need to recycle, but we really need to reform the way goods are made and used. Yes, we need to save water, but we really need to radically rethink the value of water. Yes, it's fantastic that Tesla and other companies are producing electric cars, but we need to radically redesign cities so that we don't need any cars. Yes, we need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but we also need climate justice for communities already suffering. When my son Marcus was 9, an environmental speaker came to his school, luckily not me, and told the children that it was now up to them to solve the world's problems. Marcus put up his hand and said, "Actually, it's still up to you." The truth is that it's going to take all of us, right? So another big skill that you learn at Putney is how to talk to adults. Not many people your age can do that. Not many people my age can do that. That skill will help you forge coalitions that can make the big changes that we need, challenged for the planet's changes. You don't need to wait. You can already start the campaign for your college divestment from fossil fuels before you even get to campus. Start today. At college, there will be a lot of pressure for you to be people you are not. Life is too short to pretend. Knowing who you are takes time, so be compassionate with yourself. Try and differentiate between the things that make you tick, that give you joy, and the things that your parents, friends, and People magazine expect from you. Putney has left an indelible mark on each of you, whether you relished every moment or struggled to maintain a sense of equilibrium, whether you felt alone or supported. Putney is part of who you are. You will find it hard to sit on the sidelines and watch the world go by. You will be community builders. You will not be able to sit in a cafe without remembering serving food yourself. You won't be able to drink a glass of milk without remembering either the cows or the farmers who worked long hours making the farm run. There are a ridiculous number of challenges ahead of you, and yet all of them pale in comparison to the love your parents and guardians feel for you at this very moment. Love is ultimately the only agent of change that has the power to transform our world, to create the future that we desire. We only protect the things we love, and we only love the things we experience. We love Putney because we got to experience it so deeply. So try and spend as much of your life outdoors as possible. Rain, shine, snow, wind, as you found out at Putney, they're all just weather. So go out no matter what. The energy, resilience, and endurance we need to protect nature can only come from being in nature. Right now, I'd like each of you to stand up. Come on, stand up. And hold hands with the person next to you. Okay, shut your eyes. And now take one last long, deep breath of fresh Vermont air. And now release it. You can sit down. I often forget to breathe. Literally, I do this. I forget to breathe, and what I found is it really helps to get through life if you keep breathing. I never wanted the spirit of Putney to be too far away from me, so I married my classmate, Alex Nichols. The twinkle in her eyes, the crazy art project she drags me into the desert to create, her love of life and passion to make it better is like being at Putney every day. The next time you crave a dose of Putney, take an action to build community. Stay curious and fill your life with courage and purpose. And if that fails, crack open a big bottle of maple syrup, pour it over a thick piece of French toast, and remember how sweet life really is. Thank you and congratulations to the class of 2018! Woo! You guys rock.
So this is the part that the seniors have been waiting for. You gonna say one more thing?
The speech is available on Podship Earth. So, yeah.
Gabriel Hayes Failstyle. Rebecca Rose Becker Blumenfeld.
Oh my God.
Maeve Una McMahon Sweeney. I'm so proud of you. Mackenzie Kevin Kelly. Congratulations. William Makepeace Severance. Andrew Finley Leston-Niles. That's beautiful. Well done. Congratulations. Susan Leona Flint. Congratulations. Zev Raphael Aronal Pogrebin. Sophia Louise Perry. Nathaniel Thomas Bedell. That's beautiful. Well done. Congratulations. Samuel Anderson Marcy.
Thank you, Emily.
Ariana Marina Capellan.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh.
Mahogany Star Brown. I think they knew what you were going to wear.
Thank you.
Nicholas Greenleaf Riccardi Kuhn. Congratulations. Ryusei Sawada. Very elegant. Great job. Congratulations. Madison Helena Lead. Caroline Hastings Hughes Combs. Quan Viet Bam. Well done. Congratulations. Mary Sidney Miller. Sarah Madrone Young. Alden Miller Schmidt. Andres Miguel Rodriguez. Griffin Sam DeMatteo. Well done. Anna Martina Lecter-Hartman. Avi Chaim Sarah Brennick. Jack Solinger Muth. Chinua Wei. Grace Morrow Chambers. Dixie Jean Long. Eliza Kate Gale Strauss Jenkins. Junran Zhang. Liza Lee Pill. Rosalind Song Harris. Elon Foster Hedges. Zhang Biaoji. Emery Richmond Ball. Jada Serena Cooper. Delaney Cedar Hayes Bullock. Jeremy Quinn West. Ava Rose Shader. Darius Daniel Showell. Garrett John Ballman. Shake your hand.
Sure.
Molly Cagle Cameron.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Avery Catherine Stokes McLean. Samuel Stubbs. Bianca Sophia Peterman. William James Parkman. Lucas Malone Kierden.
Oh my God, thank you.
William Walker Blood. Arisa Ray Marshall.
Thank you so much.
Yi Yao Fan. The brightest one.
Thank you.
Julian Manderfield Preston. Kyle Miller Pickett. Jessica Louise Moskowitz. Asa Moses Martin.
Thank you. Wow, that's beautiful. Holy shit.
Claire Ann Matlock. Zachary Lieutenant James. Well done, congratulations. Lin Fang Li. Jacob Brill Stevenson. Mica Alexander Lin-Alves. Quinn Alexander Burrows. Acadia Grace Barrengos. Hui Lin. Charles Jacob Strauss. The class of 2018. Go.